This was a battle between police officers and bandits in Kapindasum village in Baringo County. It was a serious battle.
We will fight them on land and from the air.
On the 23rd of October 2023, bandits attacked a GSU patrol, leading to a serious exchange of fire. On the receiving end, children of Kapindasum Primary School.
Yatia musiaga imeenda, watoto aliuliwa, sasa yeye amepaki peke yake.
This is the story of why banditry is a serious criminal enterprise and why bringing it down is a tall order.
Watu ya Saimosoi, watu ya Baringo South wameumia ya kutosha.
Shule inafungwa, maji inafungwa, hospitali inafungwa, watu wanauliwa, mali yao inafungwa, inachukuliwa yote.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Kenyan Historian. Well, it's yet another episode and we are talking about banditry, but first we want to say thank you for supporting the Kenyan Historian, for watching our documentaries, for subscribing, for sharing and liking. It has been amazing. We are now over 100,000 subscribers and I and my team, we are over the moon because of your support. If you haven't subscribed, let me tell you one thing. Kenyan Historian is the next big thing and we have lined up quite a number of documentaries, quite a number of stories to tell you. And you can support us to achieve that. We have a till number, the till number that is written there, 4026512. You can send any kind of support, we will appreciate. But you can also support us by becoming a member. Remember to join. Remember to join the Kenyan Historian and support our documentaries. Support the vision that we have about telling the African story and taking it to another level, telling it in our own way. That is the vision of the Kenyan Historian. And we have started small, we started in Kenya, we have grown, we are hoping to grow even bigger because of your support. Back to the story. The story is about banditry in the Kenyan North.
Juzi kuna mwalimu amevikwa risasi teacher. Serikali pato wananyamaza. Deputy wa serikali pato wananyamaza. Sisi every week, kila week tuko na wawili sahi mojari. Kila wiki tunangojea this week also tupate ngine. Tupate ngine. Hiyo ni kawaida. Kila wiki mkienda record cabinet mtapata namna hiyo. Wale wamevunja mkuu tuko wanne, wako wanne sahi Eldoret. So next week tunakuja kufunika hawa wengine, tunaenda kupanga wengine huko juu. So hii sita iko wazi.
Now recently Kenya's Interior Cabinet Secretary Professor Kithure Kindiki launched these vehicles you see here. Quite a number of them. Armored personnel carriers. Now these vehicles are there to protect police officers as they move in the Kenyan North battling armed bandits. These are well-organized gangs from regions as Pokot, Turkana region, Samburu. We're talking quite a vast region, a hard terrain, and that is why the Cabinet Secretary says we must equip police officers. Listen to him.
For mobility which is protected so that our officers don't get harmed by criminals, in terms of weapons which are effective enough to countermand and neutralize the fire of organized criminals.
It is not the first time that we've seen quite an elaborate launch or an elaborate plan to weed out banditry in the Kenyan North. Different regimes from Daniel Arap Moi to Mwai Kibaki to Uhuru Kenyatta and now William Ruto, we have seen intensified fight against banditry. And if you go to Turkana and ask anyone about Loturiri, they will tell you Loturiri ni mbaya. Those who know it, because Loturiri is the sound of the helicopter. And that refers to the 1984 sweep where the late Olenkaiseri, Joseph Olenkaiseri, spearheaded Kenya Defense Forces, then called Kenya Armed Forces, to weed out bandits in the Kenyan North and also disarm most of the people in Turkana region. And it was serious. So when you talk about Loturiri, they will tell you, hey, yo ni mbaya. Wanaogopa hiyo kitu sana. So it has been here, disarmaments year in, year out. But after disarmament, these guys are back. They have let's say firearms, new ones, AK-47, machine guns, talk of any gun that is available on this planet. Okay, not available on this planet, but some of the sophisticated guns, these guys have them. So back to Professor Kithure Kindiki and the launch of new armored personnel carriers. So he says that this will help deal with bandits. And he's just trying to equip the Kenya Police Service as even they battle bandits.
Going forward, security officers in the front line are directed to act mercilessly and thwart the work of bandits and make sure that they take down bandits and other dangerous criminals before they take down the people of Kenya, before they hurt a police officer or a law enforcement officer.
But you remember when we started, we talked about the attack on Kapindasum village and especially the attack on GSU officers. We're not talking about any other police unit. We're talking about highly trained general service unit, and bandits are so daring to attack GSU officers. Majority of them are usually anti-stock theft unit, and they were attacked in an exchange of fire in an attack that lasted hours in Kapindasum village. Remember, these kids here you are seeing were just sleeping on the floors in their classrooms, even as bandits and the police battled. So, as Kindiki launched the new vehicles, we go back to the story of just how organized the criminal gangs that are called bandits are.
And we are going to come down heavily and painfully on all organized crimes that are terrorizing the people of Kenya.
To understand that, you have to go back to the time President William Ruto declared war on banditry. He said it was time to deal with the issue of banditry and cattle rustling, and once for all. So he's sending who? The Kenya Defense Forces.
Every bandit must be brought to book. Every illegal gun surrendered willingly or by force.
But even after sending the Kenya Defense Forces, hey, tuliona moto. Still, bandits were even trying to attack the Kenya Defense Forces. Yes, the Kenya Defense Forces outmaneuvered them in most cases. But look at the imagination and the bravery. Is it bravery? No. The imagination and the courage these guys have to go against Kenya's most sophisticated soldiers. And at the end of it, yes, they were dealt with. Yes, they ran out, they had to run away. But I'm looking at these bandits, how daring they were to go against Kenya, the Kenya Defense or the KDF officers. Now, this is what Professor Kindiki said at that time.
By trying to demonstrate that they can disrupt an ongoing operation and that they can withstand our firepower, these thugs have invited the government to take the war to their hideouts in remote forests, caves, ravines, gorges, and escarpment.
Sometime in 2013, I remember very well, I was headed to Turkana. We were going to do a story about food security in Turkana. I was new in the newsroom. I was 1 year old in the newsroom. So I had joined a particular team, an organization. We were going to cover a story about food security in the Kenyan North, specifically in Turkana. So we left Nairobi and we headed to Turkana. Somewhere around past Marich Pass. Marich Pass is past, you go past Kitale, Kapenguria, Marich Pass. So somewhere between Marich Pass and Kainuk, all of a sudden, bandits were on the road. And they blocked us. They kind of took us hostage. And we were taken inside not like a forest, but a clear area, off-road. And you see, they had only one guy who was, these were Turkana bandits, or bandits from Turkana community. They were speaking only one language, Turkana. And they had only at least, I think, one guy who was speaking Swahili. So wakatupeleka, katuingiza pale ndani, and wakatuhoji. Tunasema ile, hiyo si investigation, inaitwaje sasa hii? Interrogation. They interrogated us for hours. Wakitaka kujua sisi ni nani, tunaenda wapi. Tumetoa IDs, lakini hawa jamaa bado wanauliza, nyinyi ni kina nani? Na mnataka nini? What really saved us is that we had badges, the job badges. So we showed the guy who was speaking Swahili, we showed him, he went and talked to the guys. Now, where the problem was where we are headed and where we were coming from. Because at that time is when there was a police station was under siege. It was under siege in Lorogon. Yani bandits had surrounded a police station. They had taken over a police station. And it was a serious fight was going on. So even as things were happening there, sisi tumeshikwa na bandits. Tumeshikwa na bandits wanataka kujua so much from us, which we don't have. As we were just going to do a story about food security. At the end of it all, it turned out positive on our side. Because the guys said, you know what? If you're going to do story, start with us. Wakatoka pale, wakaingia wala wanafanya mazoezi. Wanarukaruka, wakipiga waki-practice. So we filmed, we saw how these guys are organized. Yeah? You could see that these are senior most, and they could tell you they have marks on their skin. They are scars. So they say these scars are usually, they are like tattoos, modern, old days tattoos, to signify the number of kills you had made, the number of raids. Actually, they said the number of kills one had made as a warrior. So they had some, you could, when you see a person who had lots of marks, then you are told probably that is a senior ranking guy. and most of them were not on the practice. You'll see them seated there just watching what is happening. So they had trainers. Yeah, the guys were training them, shooting, wanabingirika, how they can bingirika huko kwa kichaka. And let me tell you, those guys can run. They run in a terrain you can't. Kama unaishi Nairobi, jamaa anakimbia kwa hiyo kichaka ni kama ako Kasarani. Unamwona pale, by the time unaangalia hivi jamaa kwa this side, he's no longer there. Na ni rough, very very rough terrain. Sasa tukapiga sinema, no interviews. That story how there was no interview. Well, it's ever no interviews, but we had pictures, taken very good pictures, and then wakaturudisha kwa barabara, akasema asanteni sana, kwaheri. Now, from what I've just told you, what we learned from that time is that these guys are well organized, properly organized. They have the command structures, and they have senior commanders, people who call the shots, people who say this and that, this is where we are going to attack, this is what we're going to do, who is going to lead the team. So they are well organized, just as probably the military is organized or the police is organized, with ranks. They have senior commanders to the lowest ranking guys in the criminal, in the gangs structure.
Their days are numbered. We will fight them on land and from the air. We will strike them from the ground and from the sky. We will pursue them in the deserts of Kenya, on sand, in the forest, valleys, gorges, caves. We have to terminate this rubbish.
I have been to North Rift many times, different regions of North Rift. I've been to Baringo, Tiati to be specific. I've been to Baringo North, Baringo South, Turkana, Samburu, Laikipia. I've been in those areas. Those areas are bandits infested. And for you to understand these things, you talk to many people. I've talked to members of the General Service Unit. I've talked to bandits themselves. I have talked to leaders from those areas, and they all talk about one thing. This is a criminal enterprise.
I cannot develop myself. Na mbusi yangu iko pale Seretiot na Kasiokon.
This are a group of people who are well trained, well organized, and have an end game. An end game those days used to be cattle rustling, just stealing cattle from each other and everything like that. But today it has a commercial ending where they are beneficiaries. People now who, once the cattle are stolen from one community or one village or the other, they are taken to a valley somewhere, kept there, and then transported to various areas, various regions, not just Kenya, but within East African regions too. Many areas, including Nairobi.
Tunauliza nyinyi, hii maneno yote napigia rais kweli? Sinaona kama kuna kitu katikati. Kuna kitu katikati. Kuna kitu katikati. One, hii mali yetu inataramuka huko. Inaenda soko gani? Inaenda soko gani? Mnataka kutuambia amwezi kujua hiyo maneno? Serikali kuwa hawezi kujua hii maneno?
So kuna watu wa Nairobi wenye mnakula nyama, mna benefit the bandits, but you can never tell, yeah? You can never tell. So, but it's the reality of the matter. There are people who are benefiting from banditry. So are they ready to help the government deal with banditry? That is a question that we may answer later in life, but not today.
Watu ya Saimosoi, watu ya Baringo South wameumia ya kutosha. Kuna uchungu inafika ambayo utasema ni uchungu mpaka wewe unanyamaza. Na waziri, unaona hii watu, jamani, the first thing we need is remedy, hata pali wa kuishi tu. hata chakula ikiwa, lakini pali mtu anaeka kichwa jioni ni wapi?
When there was a time I visited police officers in Baringo, and we talked at length on the issue of banditry and the issue of jungle policing. And one area they talked about much is how do bandits acquire the guns? How do bandits acquire resources? These are people who are living in a jungle. They don't farm, they don't have even whatever. But they have guns, serious machines. And number two, they have they move us and shake us. They have a structure. So how do they ensure that these gangs survive and keep doing what they do? So to understand that, then I have to give you the structure of the operation. This is how bandits operate. And it's a simple structure because it follows serious organizations like police, like they have a script like army or whatever. So the first thing they do is they have informers within the community, and they have informers. That is an allegation. That one I am not sure, but I've heard about it. They have informers even in the police service. People who benefit in their security structure. Some chiefs, some assistant chiefs are informers for these bandits, and they have people in the communities who serve as informers. They tell bandits where to attack, who to attack, and how to get away. So before they attack, they have what we call intelligence gatherers, serious people. They do serious and proper intelligence gathering. And what they do is they go to a village, find the informers, gather more information about how people live there. How many cattle are there? If they are cattle, let's say livestock, how much can they gather? The entry point, the exit points. And if, for example, they are attacked, how do they defend themselves? These are criminal gangs we're talking about. These are bandits we are talking about. So they gather all that information before they come. Now, once they take away the cattle, that is the serious now where serious organization happens. They move in a formation that has several layers. So they have the first team that pushes the cattle away. Then they have several layers, like 3 of them, defending the pushes. And they have snipers. Yeah? They have snipers located in different areas. So at the end of the day, the cattle they have stolen here are being driven to a nearby valley. Let's say there are several valleys in those counties I've mentioned. We're talking about Baringo, for example, valleys like when we're talking about Samburu, there's Bragoi. In between Baringo and Turkana, there is Kasarani, there is Ngelecha in Baringo. So quite a number of valleys where they drive these cattle to, because that is a death trap for anyone chasing them. Now, I talked about the layers. There is the first layer here that waits for the police. Once they run, they either wait for the police or the community they have stolen from, if they have warriors who are trying to fight to retrieve back the cattle or the livestock. So there are guys there, and there are snipers in different locations. So if you're fighting them, and if you are going after the cattle, you are meeting several layers of bandits. The first one is here, where you will engage. If you manage to deal with them, you will find another layer. But remember also, there are snipers. If you probably finish the second layer, you find a third layer. And then probably, if you are lucky enough, you find your cattle, the pushers. They are still warriors, so you have to be very, very careful. And that is why we have seen quite a number of police officers killed. And And that is why when you read newspapers, when you read journals, you'll see, is Baringo or is Tiati, is Turkana, is Samburu a death trap? Some have been specific. Is Kapedo, Baragoi, or Ngelecha a death trap? These are valleys we are talking about. Because what in most cases where we have seen police officers killed, like in Baragoi, like in Kapedo, the police officers were led into a valley. And once into a valley, it's done. It's a done case, because in the valley, they station snipers on the walls. So they led you in, they drive you in, and then they close. So, and then they start firing. For you, bullets will be coming from all the directions. Mbele, katikati, nyuma. So you have nowhere to go. And that is the trap. And remember, you remember this clip last year? We did this story about bandits. And the cabinet secretary was around here. You see where he's standing? So he was showing us, or he was showing members of the media where the valleys I've been talking about. For example, this valley was Baragoi. This is a vast valley. Now, if you enter in, and you can see from that picture, there were people. People in the valley. What were they doing there? You can see them clearly. Those are people. They were in the valley. What were they doing there? Now, that is why I'm talking about this being a criminal enterprise.
The government of Kenya will stand behind any officer who uses the weapons under their control to neutralize threats posed by dangerous organized criminals. And I want to call upon the support of the country. We must rally behind our men and women in uniform in the front line and support them.
And the biggest thing about banditry that people don't know is that most of these bandits have spiritual leaders. Yeah, have spiritual leaders, people who fortify them before they go for an attack. So when you are going to attack, or a police officer is going to face a bandit, he's going to face someone fortified, someone who believes that the bullet coming on his way cannot kill him. He's been fortified. And that is why these guys attack police officers anywhere, anyhow, like almost everywhere. Now imagine on the 23rd of October, as we began the show, we showed you how bandits raided police, the GSU, General Service Unit. Now the General Service Unit were on a patrol and were headed to their camp. The camp is just nearby in Kapindasu. And the bandits had arrived there. They were close to a GSU camp and they started attacking a patrol. You can imagine, daring. This is not a normal person. Now, I talked about police officers. I talked about having, there being several efforts to deal with banditry from the regimes of Daniel Arap Moi, as far as I can remember, from Mwai Kibaki's time to Uhuru Kenyatta's time, and now William Ruto's time at the helm of the country's leadership.
We have made our commitment to end cattle rustling, banditry, and other criminal activities in every part of Kenya. I am absolutely confident that we can rely on the KDF and our security system to secure the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Kenya as mandated in the Constitution without any difficulty whatsoever.
And the success has been, you can measure, it's not big. The success against banditry is very small. It is small because probably the targeting or the target is wrong. The approach is wrong. Remember, these are people who have never, most of the bandits I've interacted with during my work as a journalist. They're not learned people. I told you somewhere that when we were captured by bandits, only one person in the group spoke Swahili. The rest had no clue. So at that particular point, we were just like, I hope that guy he's saying exactly what we are telling him. Because you can imagine if he gives the wrong information. And the guy he's talking to is holding a machine gun. Akikuangalia hivi roho inafanya hivi. Roho inafanya hivi because sasa hujui jamaa anamwambia nini. Anaongea Kiturkana. Akirudi kwenu akiwaambia sasa amesema hivi ndio nyinyi mumwambie. Ukiona narudi roho inafurahi kwa sababu unajua it means what he has said si mbaya sana kwa sababu hawajamuka na bunduki. And sometime when you leave those places unajiuliza nilienda kufanya nini hapo? Okay, hiyo tulishikwa. Lakini kuna zingine tumeenda tunajiuliza nilienda kufanya nini hapo? But you see at the end of it all, it is the job that we must do because we want to change Africa. And Africa will change if the right information is given to the people. Now, the right information in this situation is, how is the government approaching this issue of banditry? And why is it still a big issue in this country? And why haven't we dealt with it? Because when you look at it, we are treating, it's like we are treating the symptoms of a disease. And we are not targeting the disease itself. Tunatibu headache. Kichwa kinauma unatibu. But uko na kidonda kwa kidole. What is making you have a headache is the kidonda. If you treat the kidonda, then you will not have headache. That is where the problem is because these people haven't gone to school. So if our target, long-term target, I know what we are doing is short-term. We can deal with it, disarm and whatever, and reduce banditry. But to deal with bandits, you have, first of all, give opportunities to these people. I will not stop saying that. You have to give opportunities to these people. First of all, look at it. Why are these guys fighting? Why do this? Because the reason why I'm saying that, there was a time I was in Capedo, and there was a boy playing with something that looked like a stick. So I approached this young boy, and what I saw was the guy had made something, it's called a toy. It was a toy gun from a wood, like a toy. So what the young boy was practicing with is a gun, to make a gun, because that is what he knows. That is what he sees on a daily basis. People brandishing a gun. By the way, we walk on those sides, it is not uncommon to see people brandishing a gun. You meet herders, a gun. People just walking on the road, a gun. People on the market, a gun. You see, so how will a child start thinking about other toys when he sees a gun? Now, open up the area. First of all, these areas do not have roads. Build roads. Build roads. When you build roads, first of all, you deal with insecurity directly, because there is very few criminals, unless they're sophisticated. But these old type criminals love kichaka. Yeah? So you reduce the kichaka by building infrastructure. Build schools, let people learn. Then you'll have a generation of people who are learned, serious people. I don't mean that Pokots and Turkanas are not learned. They're quite a big population of learned people, but a majority of them haven't stepped in school. So give them education, proper education. Then with time, as this generation goes, we will have a generation of well-educated people, people who learn about other opportunities. Then number two, when you talk about other opportunities, teach these people other ways of other economic activities, other ways of making money. Look at it. People think that these hardship places are not have no agricultural potential. I disagree. There was a time I went inside Pokot, deep in Pokot, where the northwest Pokot, where East Pokot meets with Elgeyo Marakwet. And what I saw, I met a lady who had done proper agriculture, just using a small dam. Yeah? alikuwa tuna kadamu kadogo.
Naileta kwa jarrican 20 liters, naimwagia, na unaona iko namna hii. Jua ya huku inachapa kabisa, iko gali. Ukiona vile inakaa nje hapo usimame na usimame hapa iko na tofauti. Ndio sikuwa na greenhouse, uwezo ya kununua hiyo greenhouse. Nikasema hili nichenge tu hii kadogo, at least nichungie mboga. Sababu ukiona hii na uone ingine iko hapo mbele, hiyo ingine yenye haina shade imekauka.
Lakini alikuwa mboga, akatupigia mpaka mboga. Cheki kwa hii video. Hii nilikuwa nikiwa NTV. Alitupigia hapa ni Pokot dry. So look at it. This lady had done proper agriculture in an environment that in most occasions people will tell you hapa ukulima ngumu. So if we enable them to have alternative means of livelihood, like kuwa na ng'ombe yako lakini unaweza lima tumboga nini. Two, because I've talked about the education. Now I've talked about alternative means of livelihood and give them security, because some of them have guns because they're usually attacked. So jiprepare, anasema acha nijipange kwa sababu hakuna mtu wa kunipanga. There's no security for them. So what they do, wanajipanga. Mtu akikuja niko nayo. So that is how we can eliminate the criminal elements, and it can be easy to pinpoint. Today, if you go to those areas, how will you tell that this is a criminal and this one is not a criminal? Everyone is carrying a gun. Everyone has a gun. Utasemaje huyu nini? And that is the story of Turkana and Samburu and Pokot, many areas, and Laikipia, where bandits reign. And it's not a simple story. It always makes me feel bad. Makes me feel bad because it's something we can deal with. My name is Enoch Sikole, and this is the Kenyan Historian.